and welcome to the As You Are podcast. My name is Leslie Vandergenst. I'm the founder of Enso Coaching and Consulting, and I'm here with two of our amazing coaches, Libby and Kathleen. And we are joined today with the amazing Wendy Papasan.
Yay!
Welcome,
so happy
Wendy.
to be here.
Yay! We're so happy you're here. So, we've known each other for a really long time.
We have.
I used to work with Jay, your husband.
You did?
For like 17 years.
Yeah, that's insane. Since you were basically a baby.
Yeah.
We already since you were a theater geek, basically. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I've seen you kind of grow into this amazing businesswoman. At the time, I think the kids, you had two children at the time, and they were kind of little.
17 years ago, I would have had a 1 and a 2-year-old.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of life right there.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, so since then, you have grown into this amazing business, the Papasan Properties Group, which I think I saw in December, one of the top like 3 in GCI or something like that. Is that right?
That's
close.
I don't think so, but that sounds great. Yeah.
Maybe in Austin. I don't know.
Maybe in Austin.
In Austin.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe in Austin.
Yeah. Top
Yeah.
3 in GCI in Austin in December, which is amazing, especially with market and, and it's Austin.
Yeah.
So you've got this amazing growing business. And then also you're the co-founder of Her Best Life.
That's true.
Which is another organization.
Yep.
So can you talk a little bit about Papasan Properties Group and how you kind of came about building that business?
Sure. Well, I started out my real estate career as an investor. So when Jay wrote the book called The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, we decided we needed to do some investing. And so that's actually how I got into real estate. And I did real estate investing while my kids were little. So that was right about the time when we met. So my kids were 1 and 2. And so we did our first flip. And I had quit my job. I was a stay-at-home mom. And just bought and remodeled different properties. We developed a little subdivision in Travis Heights, all kinds of things. And then when my oldest son was getting ready to go to kindergarten, I said, I'm going to get my real estate license to save money on investment properties. That was really my thought.
Yeah.
And so I had a really small goal that first year. It was really tiny. It was so small, it was embarrassing. But I hadn't been working in 5 years. So my goal was to make $15,000 that year in real estate, which a lot of people start out in real estate with a small goal.
Yeah.
They do it as a side hustle. And so that's kind of how I thought about it. And I ended up making $85,000 that year.
Oh my gosh.
Which was twice as much as I'd ever made in a year as a professional.
That's awesome. What was your career prior to?
I was in marketing, so I actually worked for the state, for Texas Historical Association.
Oh wow!
Because I love old houses and things like that.
Oh gosh,
and then
crazy.
Yeah,
Same.
nerd out. Yeah. So that's the state agency for historic preservation.
Oh wow!
So I loved that job. I got to travel. I was in their heritage tourism program, so I got to travel all around the state. I've been to every little Texas town that you've never heard of, which was so fun. I would travel 2 to 3 days every single week. And before that, I was a marketing consultant in New York. Wow. So my whole background was really in marketing.
And how has that helped you in the real estate career?
Yeah. It's always good to know how to sell yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that first year you were at, you said 85,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then talk to us a little bit about the growth of Papasan Properties.
Yeah. So by the time I had been in business for 5 years, I was making $1 million.
Oh,
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, which
textbook.
Yeah, I know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, I don't know what other career you could go into where in 5 years you go from making nothing to making $1 million. I mean, that's legal anyway, you know?
Yeah.
I like that disclaimer.
Except for sales, you know, and I'd never had a sales job before. I'd never worked worked in a restaurant or retail or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And I just loved it.
So talk to us about what, in that first 5 years, like what were the big kind of milestones or things that you really learned about yourself and about the business in those first 5 years?
Well, I think the real gift that I got is that when I started my real estate business, Jay really had been talking about getting help like right away. Mm-hmm. And so I went in with a little bit of what I would call like a leverage mindset. And
Awesome.
for a lot of people, they get in it, they want to do everything themselves. That's why they get into it. And my kids were really little, so I had help right away. So that was the gift that I got. Was in my mind, I was like, this is the way it should be. And plus, there were lots of things I didn't really like about it. And actually, my favorite thing is actually being the leader more than the day-to-day stuff. And some people really loved the day-to-day stuff. So yeah, so I got help right away. I got help way before anybody was suggesting that I should. So I had an assistant within, I had a contract assistant right away, probably my first deal. And then I had a 20-hour-a-week assistant within 18 months or something of doing that. So,
Wow.
yeah. And then I just got more and more people and failed and, fell down, skinned my knee, got back up, fall down, skin your knee, get back up, fall down, skin your knee, get back up. And here I am.
Can we talk about some of the fall down, the skin, the knees, the get back up?
Yeah. Well, I think it's tricky when you are growing your business because if you are an owner operator, you're good at the operating stuff and not always at the owning stuff. And so being the owner and the leader, I'd never done that before. I'd managed people before, but that's very different than leading them. And there's plenty of difficulties, hiring the wrong people, mistakes around hiring, mistakes around compensation, mistakes around getting the business, mistakes around org charts. I mean,
you're like, which one?
Let's dig in. So mistakes around hiring,
Mm-hmm.
what were some of the things that you really, when you think back to, okay, these are the big learning things and, have really kind of helped you in the trajectory of the business. What would those be?
Well, it's so hard to know. You can't, you almost have to just go live through it as a leader. It's really hard for someone just to say you should do it this way because you can have something in your head, but then you don't really understand it.
Right. And
as you're growing, when you're really little, you make different choices because of the size of your business than you would later.
100%.
So I feel like, in 2019, so 2018 was my best year ever. I made $3 million that year.
Ooh. Yeah.
And
get it.
casual.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
I was number 3 in my region. We helped over 320 families that year. And I remember actually writing an email to Gary Keller, and I was like, next year's the year I'm going to be a millionaire real estate agent. And I was walking around and I was patting myself on the back, I'm amazing, such a good leader. I had this great year and all of that. And really that year, everything came sort of crashing down. So I had several long-term employee, people who worked with me left just for various reasons. My director of operations left. Many agents left. My long-term, operations on the transaction side left. And it was just this, over the course of 9 months, I had about 90% of the people on my team leave.
Oh,
and
pre-COVID, yeah?
Yeah, it was pre-COVID.
Wow.
So it was in 2019. So it was those movies where somebody falls down the hill and they're rolling down the hill and they bounce off a rock and then they hit a tree and then they bounce off a rock. And it was so that's how it was, all the way down to the bottom. And it was hard because when people thought of my team, they were like, oh, this is the team where nobody leaves.
Yeah.
She has such a great team. She's so good at it. And actually, it was really the best thing that ever happened to me. When I look back on it, I just think, wow, I learned so many lessons. I learned so many lessons from that, chiefly, which was understanding, if you grow too fast and you don't have the business to support the people on your team, then that's not good, right? You don't have enough leads. And then, one great year does not a great business make, I'm sure, Nordstrom has a great business.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? I didn't have a great business. And so there was and then just the hubris I had around it, which was just oh, I did it. I'm so good, and there was just a lot of hubris there. And then I was able to, the best part of it was when all that happened, I was able to, first of all, have a really good pity party for myself, which was great. And just really evaluate and think about what I wanted, because so much of me building my business so rapidly was sort of in part, A, I enjoyed it, but B, some of it was just this pressure like, oh, you're married to the co-author of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Like, you're going to do all these things right. And so I wanted, like, that part of it was important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when everything fell apart, I was like, oh, I get to do it however I want to now. It was like a relief for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a relief. And so then what I did was I got really clear and intentional about what I wanted my business to look like, the role I wanted to have in it, the amount of money I wanted to make from it. And then I got to rebuild it in the right way.
That's
so
amazing.
that was, it'll be 5 years ago
Yeah.
in, I guess at the end of last year, at the end of 2019. And so now we have a totally different organization. We're back in growth mode again. And so during COVID, we kind of hunkered down.
Yeah.
And now we're back in growth mode, which is like really fun. And got a lot of fun things going on. And so, yeah, that's my journey. Yeah.
So when you think about some of the things that you wanted for yourself and for your business, when you were kind of doing some of that evaluation, what were some of those things?
Well, I think so often, especially in the real estate industry, you're kind of chasing this glory idea of, the more GCI you make is like the pinnacle of everything. And the bigger you are, how many people on your team? Well, just because you have 1 million people on your team doesn't mean you're profitable.
We're 100%.
They're all good.
Yeah. Or they're all good. Yeah. And so I was able to say, listen, I want a business that's primarily based on referrals. So at that point, like now we have we've helped 2,100 families over the last 15 years.
Wow.
And that's where the bulk of our business comes from.
Wow.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So I was like intentional about that. I don't want to do all of these other things that we did to grow, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. We did that to grow. So that is where, and that's a slow burn.
Mm-hmm.
Like to get those wheels going is a slow burn. So I spent a lot of COVID just creating those like flywheels, so that we could just get business from our past clients. So that, and then the culture on our team. So being really intentional about who's on the team, hiring only team players.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of my mistake the first time was I had a lot of rock stars on my team.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a mistake. I just didn't know.
Right.
Right. I mean, Gary is always saying like hire talent and like all this kind of stuff. And it's like talent is great and you want them to be team players.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know that.
Can you define team player for
Yeah.
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 Right along.
the coaches?
Yeah.
I think, I never played team sports. I was like an individual debater. So I
Nice.
didn't, so I was never like a team sport person. And the reason I started my business is I thought real estate was quite lonely by myself. And so a team player to me is someone who wakes up every day and is thinking about how we can succeed for the bigger goal, right? And not just thinking about themselves. Everybody's got their back. And so I think our operation now is a work family. People would describe it as a work family. Everybody's got each other's backs. I'm very invested in the people on my team. Like I'm kind of like the grandma. I take people out to lunch. I buy them little presents. And
How much
just
is
the
that
mom?
negative?
No.
Like grandma, but like team grandma? Is that what?
I mean,
We skipped a stage.
no, okay. Well, only grandma in the sense that like I get to do the fun stuff with them.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
Good.
That's what I mean.
It's a nice reframe.
Yeah. That's all I mean. Because I just kind of what grandmas get to do.
They
Yeah,
do.
that
They
is
do.
I don't have to
true.
hold anyone accountable necessarily, or like
Yeah.
I have people that do that on my team now.
Do you know, sorry, just running with this for a step further and thinking about my own mother who's a grandmother and just I think the philosophy of like when you're a grandparent, you do get to do the fun things and all the things that you wish that you maybe could have corrected from when you were a mom.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that carries over in the metaphor as well, but it's not just the fun things, but like what does that distance give you in terms of an opportunity to relate to your team?
Yeah, maybe. I think when you are in it, when you're in when you're an operator and an owner at the same time, it's very difficult. So, and I think a lot of real estate teams, as the owner, you're doing a lot of sales yourself, and it's hard to really focus on your leadership when you're doing that. So for me, that's been a real gift for me, as I get to pull out of that and then really think about how I can be the best leader possible. And one of the ways you're the best leader possible is you are involved with your people.
Yeah.
You know, I have a
crazy, isn't it?
I know. It's like I have a category on my, my framework that I use to plan my week of like who I'm meeting. Am I having regular lunch with people? Am I texting people? Am I doing all that? Because it's really easy just to forget, you know.
Can I ask? I love everything you're saying, by the way. Very much people first mentality. What are some of the like barometers you have in place and ways you check yourself if it feels like you're going off course?
In which way?
In terms of connecting with your people.
Well, I think you just have to be observant. You know, people always withdraw. And you can see that in organizations where they're not showing up to meetings, or maybe they're skipping their meetings with you, and then you have to kind of lean in. You really have to lean in. The tendency, I think, for a lot of leaders is like, oh, well, they're withdrawing from me, so I'm gonna lean back.
Right.
You know, and you need to lean in. And hopefully you're gonna do that before anything really happens. But yeah.
That's awesome.
Great question.
Good. Well, can we pivot?
Sure.
Can we talk about her best life?
Sure.
Oh, totally.
Yay. I'm excited.
Well, so that's also a long story, but so when I was growing my business, I was feeling pretty lonely because most of the friends I had were either stay-at-home moms or they had regular like 9-to-5 jobs. So I didn't know any other moms who were being very entrepreneurial. And I was growing our investing business at the same time. And so I joined an organization called EO, which is Entrepreneurs Organization. Great organization. They're a national organization for entrepreneurs because of this very reason. Entrepreneurs feel lonely.
Yeah.
And I joined. Austin has a huge chapter. They have 150 members. And when I joined in about 2015, 16, it was 90% men.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. And so
There's a wolf.
yeah. So what they do, which is brilliant, they sort of group you in groups of 10, and you have to interview with the group that you're going to join in order to make sure that you're a good compatibility fit, which is great because then you have this intimate sort of group to share your thoughts and all the fears you have as a business owner. And so I was going out on these lunch dates with essentially 9 guys.
It's like speed dating.
That sounds
but
great.
Yeah.
Fun.
So I can remember the first one I went to, they were talking about the retreat that they were going to do. They were all going to go like skiing in Colorado somewhere. And I just was like, I am not going to go skiing in Colorado with 9 guys. Like, I'm just not going to do that.
Right.
Like, that to me is. And then, you know, as we're having conversations, I'm realizing like, yes, we have some of these same issues as business owners, but here I am, you know, I'm a young mom, you know, my kids are in school. My husband's an executive. He's not a stay-at-home dad. Like, we're trying to figure out how to do this co-parenting thing. And I was like, I have nothing in common with these guys. Most of them had stay-at-home wives, you know?
Right.
I was like, this is not for me. Yeah, this is not for me. So I did end up joining. I never really got that tribe, and then I just pulled out. So then I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it myself. So I started talking to some friends of mine who were in a similar situation. They had young kids. They had growing real estate teams, and so we started a mastermind, and we met 1 or 2 times a year. And then we had our chat group, and then we would meet on Zoom. I don't know what we were doing back then, but and it was really powerful. It was really, really powerful to meet and talk to people who are sharing the same experiences as me. And also, we were able to grow in so many ways. We were able to grow business-wise. We were able to grow as people, as leaders, you know, in our personal lives, in our all the things, financial lives. And so after doing that for several years, we said, you know, we need to take this to the world.
Yeah.
And so we decided in April of 2019, which is kind of funny.
Big year.
Yeah.
Well, it's not coincidental. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
But, one door closes, another door opens.
Yeah.
So April of that year we met and we decided to have an event in, I think it was either September or October of that year.
Mm.
And at the time there was 11 of us meeting. So we had 11 alpha females trying to pull off this event
It's great.
remotely.
What could go wrong? That's
Great idea. Yeah. At one point we were like, registration.
Oh, yeah. Who does that?
Who's going to do registration?
Small questions
Yeah.
to ask.
Yeah. But it turned out to be a big hit. We met in Jupiter, Florida, and a couple hundred women showed up. They didn't even know what they were getting into. And we realized we had filled a niche of like authentic vulnerability where women who are leaders could come and they could just take their armor off and they could just relate to other women, and the other women would really see them for who they are, which was, you are a mom, you are a leader, you are, your authentic, vulnerable self. And like, I love you for who you are.
Yeah.
You don't have to be anyone else. And so then we started basically this movement. And so this will be our 4th year. We had an event during COVID. We have multiple memberships now. We have over 1,000 members. Yeah. And it's nothing more than like what was in my heart, and then that was so impactful to me. And, every day I get a story of like, you saved me, or this, without my circle, because we're doing the same thing that EO was doing, which was like circling people up, and just having that support network around you of people who love you and support you is just so powerful. A lot of women leaders, they just don't have that. They're very lonely. Yeah. They're very, very lonely.
Yeah. What do you feel like is one of the, or a couple of the things that they really get out of, this partnership, this relationship?
Connection.
Yeah.
True, authentic connection. And it's kind of wrapped in the cloak of, you learn about leadership skills, you learn about finances, you learn about all these other things, but really it's connection. And I'll be on stage and there'll be a group of women talking, and it's just remarkable because they will just be looking at each other and they see each other, and it's like, I love you for being an alpha female. I love you for your strength. I love that you're aggressive. I love that you're this. You don't have to play small, with this group.
Right.
And in fact, it's the opposite. It's like, you need to, we lift as we climb.
Yeah.
Right. We're all lifting as we climb.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So what have you learned, kind of growing that side?
Yeah. Well, what's amazing about this group is, I got to start it with, so all 11 of us were involved in a different way. At the beginning, like 7 of us committed to the core of it and said, hey, I want to be involved in more like the day-to-day. I'm on the board. And then 4 of the 11 were like, we love you. We support you. but getting into a business relationship with 11 of my best friends doesn't seem like the best idea.
Respectfully, no thank you.
Yeah. So they're the smart ones. Yeah. They're the smart ones. But what's amazing is when you have a foundation of trust, and you've known someone, like we've been meeting as a powerful group for 8 years, and then to go and have a leadership group like that, I've never experienced anything like it, because we're able to have really powerful conversations. And, when like Brene Brown talks about having that, a circle of trust among your leadership group, like that's what it's like. It's powerful because you've got 7 people. They're all different leadership styles, all different ideas. So we have a problem and we'll just throw out solutions to it. And imagine having 7 people with different perspectives, and then just all of us saying like, yeah, that's the one. Let's do that and run with it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then there's trust there. There's trust. And so it's been amazing. It's been truly amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
What-
So lucky.
Yeah. What are some of those pieces from that you would take and replicate or that feel like they are replicable? Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Replicable.
Yes. Replicatable.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah, there it is.
You mean in terms of like the leadership group? Or
Yeah, like thinking about like, here you have all these powerful women together. You're able to listen to one another and say, yes, that's the way. But so like if you were to take any of those ingredients, like which are the key ones to take so that it could be reproduced elsewhere?
Well, I think the trick is to have that 8 years of trust, which
Yeah.
is not really replicatable.
Yeah.
That's what's so powerful.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's the tricky part.
Mhm. Okay, so Papasan Properties Group and Her Best Life. What are the biggest challenges?
But we have another business.
Oh,
Let's
go.
go.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Casual.
It's our handiman. So also in 2019.
What was going on? I'm like, where was I? I was having a baby. And
You're
There
having
you go.
a baby.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah,
Big
you're in
year.
mommyhood. Well, in 2019, part of the reason my professional life fell apart is our house was we did a complete tear down to the studs of our house. We had a horrible contractor. We ended up firing him, and I ended up being the GC and finishing the project that year. So I was so not present
Yeah.
with my business. I thought it was running itself, and that's another lesson is like you have to be there as the leader.
Yeah.
Unless you hired someone else to be the leader. And it was incredibly stressful. I mean, my stress level was like this high. Jay also had back surgery that year. He was supposed to be in the hospital 1 day. He was in the hospital 7 days. So after that all happened, we had a horrible contractor, stole money from us, stole money from some of our clients that he was working with at the time. We hired a lawyer so we could sue him. The guy didn't have any money. So it was bad. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start my own company.
Yeah. I love that theme.
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah.
this. I'm going to do my own.
There's a theme there, isn't
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
You know, it works.
there is a theme. And so we started a handyman and remodeling company. And I've had 2 remarkable partners. One we started during COVID, and then he had a baby, and then he ended up moving. So then I've got my partner now, Dylan, and we've been doing it for 2 years together, and it's great. Our goal the first year was just to break even, and we were profitable.
Oh my
First
gosh.
year, which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we doubled our profit this year. So
It's amazing.
yeah, it's great. And I spend maybe 30 minutes a week on it.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, so I've he does all of it.
What's been the big thing that you've taken from that side of the business?
Well, it's kind of cool because I'm like, oh, yeah, I do have a lot to share in terms of leadership. Like I'm like his coach, kind of. You know, I can coach him
Yeah.
and coach him on hiring, coach him on what to do, and I, it's like once you start one business, it's easier to start other ones.
Yeah.
Once you have one successful one. And, I think sometimes as women, we're like, well, I'm not there yet, or I can't do it. And, just kind of starting that from the ground up. I'm like, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
it's exciting.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So going back, let's just start with Papasan Properties Group. What's your biggest challenge right now that you are facing there with that business?
Biggest challenge now. Well, we're in a good spot right now.
Good.
Yeah. So it's been a couple hard years, because of the market.
Right.
Also, we weren't in growth mode. So we had kind of contracted a lot during COVID, which was just what we needed just to kind of shore everything up. And then last year we got back into growth mode again, which that shows up usually a year later.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we're like, oh, we're going to grow. And it's like, well, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the seeds we planted last year are coming to fruition. We have a 3-year relationship with a builder that and we're representing him downtown for like a 30-unit condo complex, which is very cool.
Ah,
And then another one with 160 units next year.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind
great.
of fun. We've never done that.
Yeah.
And he came to us, and they're actually a very well-known company in Chile, and they wanted to, because the economy isn't always so stable there.
Right.
They wanted to expand, and so they looked at cities all over the United States, and I got connected to him like through a friend of a friend. And so they ended up moving to Austin, and we've been working with them for 3 years. And I've connected him with attorneys and lenders and condo doc people, and just really helped him grow his business here. And it's also just another affirmation of like, wow, I kind of know what I'm doing in the real estate space, and I'm able to provide a lot of value to people. So that's one of the things we're doing for Papasan Properties, and then we started a commercial division. So that's been fun.
Yeah.
So
How long is the commercial division?
Just like a year. So that was sowed the seeds last year. I had an amazing woman on my team who's was working with a lot of investors. And I always got a lot of commercial leads. And I was handing them out to different people. And so now we get to keep them.
So now you said, I'm going to do it myself.
I know. I'm going to do it myself. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And how's that going? What's
It is going so well. Good. So Megan is remarkable. She has about $11 million in listings out there. Hopefully send some good vibes. They're about to maybe go under contract this week.
Get it,
quite a few of them. So that's good. And then, just going back to all of the buyers who push pause the last couple of years because of interest rates, things like that. So so it's like buyers, builders, and commercial is kind of our big three this year.
That's good. Okay, so based on the when you grew last time and then going into this new growth mode, like where do you feel like you've got to be headspace wise or mindset wise?
Yep. Such a good question. I think about it a lot because I had, that was real trauma for me. It was real trauma, all those people leaving. I'm a people person. Yeah. And it was true trauma. I can remember after this woman who had worked on my team for 7 years, she ended up just emailing me and telling me that she was leaving.
Ouch.
And it was so tough for me. Yeah. And I just was on the couch. I was crying. Oh. And I just remember saying to Jay, my husband, like, I don't want a big life. I want a tiny little life. Yeah. I want a smallest life possible. Because it was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And so I think that like fear of growth was just a result of that trauma. Just me like, I'm just not going to do it. So I had to kind of work through that, and then understanding the ratio of people on your team that you need to feed in terms of business, and then the amount of leads coming in. So just understanding that, like 2019, I was tracking a lot of the lagging measures like closings and things like that. Now we track everything. So we track appointments, we track every single lead that comes in. So just a lot more insight into that so we can keep that balance between the people we need to feed. And then, like I said, just the team player thing it's just who we have on the team is really important. And we just don't let a lot of people on. Like, it's like, well, you know what? We don't need, if you're not right, you're not right.
Yeah.
So, so I would say that's really important. And then just the people aspect of like, really, am I loving on my people? Are we going out to lunch? Are we talking? Am I present for them? Do we have a relationship?
It's great.
Yeah.
How do you balance that though? I mean, just thinking about, we have so many clients that are moms or, just you have all of these people to love on, but you also have 2 kids to love on and all of the people in your, in your home life. How do you balance all of that? Just taking care of everyone.
Yeah.
And yourself.
And yourself.
Yes. And yourself. Well, to be fair, my kids are much older now. So that helps a lot. It helps a lot. Yeah. They're 18 and 19, if you can believe it.
I don't. I don't. I do not believe that.
Yeah, but you can believe it. So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And I've always been a very present mom and wife. That's been a huge goal for me. And that's part of the reason I wanted to get help all along. And so I've always had a lot of help. So I think becoming that leadership, mastering the leadership part of and the delegation part is very hard for some people.
Yeah.
It's very hard. And it was hard for me at first. I come from a small like farming community in northern Minnesota. All my like extended family are farmers, which is like you just get up, you work all day, and then you die.
Yeah. And that's it.
You do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so the idea of just the idea of like getting like my great grandmother, she shoveled her walk every day until she lived to be 100.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
every day till she was like 98. And this is like Minnesota snow. This isn't
It's the real deal. It's not
Yeah, this
Texas.
isn't
Like,
or like
snow.
like Colorado snow or something. Like this is legit Minnesota snow. And so that is the mindset of where I came from.
Mhm.
And so making that delegation switch is tough. And it's still hard. I mean, it is still hard. Because the more time you have, the more you take things back. So I constantly have to fight against that. So I think for a lot of women, especially, they don't understand that help starts at home first often. And so that was tough in our family because I had been a stay-at-home mom for 5 years.
Right.
And I had everything pretty much buttoned up.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Run a tight ship.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't greeting Jay with like a martini and lipstick on. No, but I mean, it was pretty buttoned up.
Yeah.
Things got done. And so when I started to work more, especially kind of a hectic real estate life, we had to have a lot of conversations. Like, listen, I can't do that anymore. Like, you got to do some of this. And he was really good because he was like, let's find somebody else to do it instead of me taking it on. And so what we did was, because we had been living on his income only, some of the money that I made actually went to help.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Very smart.
And, the best investment you can make is in a person, whether it's at home or at work.
Yeah.
And I think that we don't think of, it's weird because we have more money than almost any other country in America, yet we want to do everything ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you go to India, you're expected to have a driver if you're wealthy. You're expected to have someone watch your children if you're wealthy. I mean, or even if you're middle class, that's the expectation, is like you need to employ other people. And here in America, we have a very different mindset, which is like we need to do it all ourselves, especially women. And that comes from, it's really only been 1 or 2 generations since women have been working.
Right. Right.
So crazy.
My mom, when she was pregnant with me, as soon as she got pregnant, they fired her. They said, you can't come back to work because you're pregnant.
Yeah.
So that's like 1 generation. I'm 1 generation away from
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have all these things in our head, which was just like, okay, you can do it all. And, all the studies show women have all this work at home that they do.
Right.
Women do 1.5 hours a day more than men typically.
Right.
And some women do a lot more than that.
Right.
So you have to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to have time for yourself and time for your kids, then you got to pay somebody to do the other things. And the great thing is when you start making money, you get to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I always tell people, tape a piece of paper to your desk, write my not to-do list
Yeah.
on it. And you got one for home and you got one for work. And every time you're doing something, whether it's like
I love yeah.
taking out the garbage, doing the laundry, cleaning your own toilets, going to the grocery store, you get to choose. Like some people are like, I love to cook. I like to cook. So I always kept that. I like to go to the grocery store. So I always kept that. Lots of other things I don't like to do. So then you get your not to do list. And then when that is beefy enough, then it becomes a job description for somebody else.
Love that.
And it's, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah. Yes.
And so that, and then you give that to someone who wants to wake up every day and that's their joy,
Yeah.
right? They're like, oh my gosh, I love being a house manager. And that's why having a group of powerful people around you who are in your same position, they encourage you to do that. And you get to share those ideas. Like, oh, did you know? Like my friend Diane, she always had she was a single mom. She always had a house manager growing up. It's brilliant. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah.
That's like a real job,
Yeah.
a house manager. Right? It's like, oh, I thought I was a house manager.
I
We're
did that.
also,
Yeah.
And I never hired that position, but I had, personal assistants. I had who could run to Target for me. I actually had people who worked often worked in both the business and home. But I remember when we got a puppy, I was like, well, I can't stay home with a puppy all day.
Yeah.
I don't have the time for that.
That's a great job. Like, who got to be the puppy sitter?
You know, one of my first assistants, Mariah, shout out to Mariah. She's the one who went through that puppy phase with my little dog Taco.
Wow.
Yeah, so sweet.
Very cute.
Yeah. So that's really where it starts. And then, once you get a little, if you also have to watch your money, but I think so many people, when they get started in their business, they don't look at the financials. They don't understand what their profit is. And that was a whole other journy that I went through, which was just becoming a financially literate person.
Yeah.
When it came to your P&L. And that's a whole nother journey.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a coach that walked me through my P&L every single week for at least a year.
Yeah.
Now I coach people on that.
Yeah.
But that was not easy. I didn't know what I was doing. And I think so many women, they think, well, numbers are hard and that's not for me. And my husband takes care of the finances and all that stuff. And that's stupid.
Yeah.
It's because you haven't learned it yet, right? It's not that men are especially good at it. I took the 4-day MBA, which is a class that Keith Cunningham teaches. And my big aha from that was I went in there and it was like 80% men. And my big aha was like, oh, well, these guys don't know what they're doing either. They're just
100%.
They're just taking 4 days out of their world and they're learning about it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's really it.
Yeah.
And so that was a big aha for me. So long answer to your
This
question.
is so good.
No, I love it. I mean, I love the creating of the list of the things that you don't want to do or have time to do, and letting that be someone's a job description for someone. But I think so much of it is just planning that out and like sitting down and taking the time to say, I can't do all the things. How can I leverage myself rather than just, I think so many people just let it all.
Of course.
And
so many
then-
people don't have any white space.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you explode with all of the.
Well, and it's like
the
having a
things.
rhythm to your intentionality. One of the best things that Jay and I did when our kids were very little is we went on a couples retreat together. And so that's real intentionality around what do we want? What do we want? What do we want this year? What do we want in 5 years? What do we want in 10 years? And then, you're not something you come up with now for 10 years doesn't necessarily come to fruition. I mean,
Right.
there's lots of things that have fallen off and you're intentional about it. And so the combination of like getting to know your finances, learning how to be a leader, and kind of loving on your team. And then 15 years of the grind.
Yeah.
And then you got your dream life.
You did.
There it is. That's that easy.
Yeah, just that easy.
Okay, so we talked about Papasan Properties Group. What's the biggest challenge you guys are facing right now on the Her Best Life side?
I would say that has been we're kind of missing a person, which is why we're hiring right now. We're looking for this.
Pitch
Oh, yeah.
it.
Pitch
throw it
it.
out
We're
here.
looking
We're looking for a VP of growth. And I think that we had kind of just built it to a certain point, and now we need someone who can really kind of take it to the next level. So that's what we're looking for there. And it's, we've been building the plane as we've been flying.
Yeah.
Which is fun. And so many people have been so kind to just trust us, But now I think we kind of got our secret sauce, like our formula is right. So
That's good.
yeah, it's
good.
exciting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, so you've talked about leadership multiple times, that this is like the area that you really love focusing on, and that's something that you're passionate about. If you had two things that you would want somebody to learn about leadership, like what would those 1, 2, 3 things be?
Well, I think finances is a big part of leadership. Like they're very intertwined. Because lots of people grow businesses where they're the operator and they like doing what they're doing. Like, oh, I love making cupcakes. I'm going to start a cupcake business.
Right.
And then they never take off their baker hat and put on their owner hat. And because that's a totally different skill set.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with finances. It's numbers. And I'm not really I never thought of myself as a numbers person. But it was funny because I was interviewing for this board that I'm on for Explore Austin, and the fundraising director, she said, you finance geeks or something like that.
To you?
You're like,
I was like, so I wrote that down. I didn't say
I'm
anything, and I
sorry.
wrote it down, and I was like, so that's
funny.
just it. Like, it's just, you get to be intentional. You know, if you want to be intentional about something, like where your energy flows, you know, everything goes. And I can remember I was talking and teaching a lot about leverage, and I wanted to get away from that because I felt that was like kind of a lady thing to do. And so then I was like, I want to get more intentional about wealth building and finance because that was like a more powerful thing.
Yeah.
And so I just got intentional about it. I was like, I don't want to talk about that anymore. I want to talk about this. And now people know me for both.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you get to choose.
Well, the thing about the metrics or the numbers, the financials, is the financials essentially tell us what we need to do in the business. So if we don't have any, measuring stick around what's working, what's not working, where do we need to put our energy, what's causing us to pause or whatever, then we're just flailing.
Yeah.
Well,
and to be clear, I don't do the tracking. Like, I don't like to do tracking. I'm not a tracker. My husband tracks everything, like crazy stuff. We've got a whole spreadsheet with all of our Keller Williams profit share from like 2000. Yeah. That's 24 years tracked. And he's like, send me your profit share for the month.
Oh my God.
And I've just hired somebody to do that. I have somebody on my team, Athea, who's my director of operations. She loves all that stuff. She's tracking all that stuff for me, and she's just giving it to me so I can take a look at it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Okay, so finances, leverage.
Finances, learning how to delegate. And then just really just the people part of it.
Yeah.
I just think you have to, no one succeeds alone. And getting into business with the best people is the secret to everything. I mean, you can build a business with great people, probably even if you're a lousy leader. So
I love it.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Like they can.
yeah.
I love it.
So,
Okay, well, where can people learn more about all of the different businesses?
Sure.
Papasan Property Group, Her Best Life, and your new
Papasan Homes.
Papasan Homes.
Yes. So people can follow me on Instagram. I have a weird name. So Wendy Papasan. I'm easy to find. Her Best Life is at herbestlife.com. Papasan Properties is at papasanproperties.com. Papasan Homes is at papasanhomes.com.
Amazing. Great job.
Yeah. It's just that marketing background.
I know. Look at
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us and having
So fun.
so much insight,
I
so
know.
many
So
great
much fun.
tidbits, nuggets for people to take back. So we appreciate you.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you guys for joining us. And as always, please subscribe to the As You Are podcast, and we'll see you next time.